He kissed me as if he had just discovered some secret desire. His throat tightened as his fingers moved beneath the hem of my underwear and explored the exposed flesh between my thighs. Welcome to the euphoric moments of love. Don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments section, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest stories. Wishing you enjoyable, relaxing moments. Thank you. Gather round as I share the unexpected tale of the moment my daughter's fiancé caught me in a rather embarrassing situation. I truly appreciate you watching the video and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Your kindness means a lot to me. Let me tell you, the tale will unfold once more in the near future, so keep your ears open. Little did I know, he was lurking just out of sight as I stood tall, water still clinging to my thighs, steam swirling against the mirror-like smoke from a fire that had already come to life. I reached for the towel. It was a familiar piece, worn and frayed at the edges, the one I always sought when the house was wrapped in silence. Fresh from the shower, I stood bare and unashamed, my skin radiant and soft to the touch. I moved my body, one hand brushing through my damp hair, and in that moment, I noticed the shadow hovering in the doorway. He stood there, hand wrapped around the doorknob, suspended in a breath of time, enveloped in an enchanting stillness. He found himself in a place he was never destined to be. His gaze upon me was unsettling, a look that lingered far too long. I too discovered myself ensnared in stillness. Breathe in fully. Let go of all that weighs you down. At first, my body became my adversary. I laid my soul bare. I held back from grasping the towel. I found myself captivated by his gaze, feeling the warmth of his eyes as they roamed over me, wrapping me in a comforting embrace. His name hung in the air, caught in the depths of my throat. Lucas, the one who has captured my daughter's heart, her cherished golden child. The person who referred to me as ma'am in our first 3 meetings. I offered my sincerest apologies. His voice quivered, soft and almost raspy, yet he stood unwavering. His gaze lingered, his eyes descended, and still I stood unmoving. I granted him the privilege to behold. A flicker of hope lingered within me, yearning for him to take that step. In a brief, ephemeral instant, perhaps 3 seconds or maybe 4, he shut the door with a resounding thud, and I could hear his footsteps quickly retreating into the distance. The hallway wrapped around him like a shroud, but my heart danced with unease. My hand trembled as I wrapped the towel around myself, holding it close to my chest, trying to grasp the chaos of the moments that had just transpired. I should have felt a twinge of shame within me. In that moment, a vibrant spark ignited within me. On that night, I found myself in bed, grappling with my thoughts for what felt like an eternity, longer than I would care to admit. With my eyes closed, I focused on the soft hum of the ceiling fan, the distant whispers of traffic, and the soothing rhythm of my husband's snore drifting from down the hallway. Yet all I could feel was the warmth blossoming on my cheeks, the fluttering excitement in my stomach, and the persistent thrum that danced between my thighs. I squeezed my legs together, wrestling with the memories of Lucas's gaze, which felt as if it were tracing every inch of my skin, lingering on my lips, and daring to explore the part of me he had no claim to, yet had seen all too clearly. The next morning, he averted his gaze from mine. Neither could I. He sat at the kitchen island, watching intently as my daughter immersed herself in her phone. Unbeknownst to her, a world of secrets lay just beyond her reach. With a gentle hum that danced in the air, she radiated joy, weaving tales of wedding menus and seating arrangements. Meanwhile, Lucas stared into his coffee, lost in thought, as if it contained the key to a world beyond. I placed a plate before him, and our fingers brushed against one another. A fleeting moment of connection. It was just a gentle brush of knuckles, but the spark that ignited between us nearly took my breath away. Even without a single word exchanged, fate led me to cross paths with him again that afternoon in the hallway. His hand brushed against my hip, a gentle yet purposeful caress, carrying a hint of intention in that fleeting contact. The feeling hung in the air, stretching on for what seemed like an eternity. I comforted myself with the thought that it bore no importance on that fateful evening. My husband became ensnared in his work, the shadows deepening around him as the sun dipped below the horizon. In her cozy room, my daughter was lost in a lively FaceTime conversation, her laughter echoing softly through the walls. The house was wrapped in a shroud of silence. As I made my way down the stairs, I filled a glass with wine, my bare feet dancing over the cool floor, the silk slip beneath my robe whispering against my skin. In the cozy embrace of the living room, Lucas found himself captivated, his eyes locked onto the screen. The world around him hushed in silence. As I crossed the threshold, his eyes lifted to meet mine. His lips parted, just a whisper, revealing a hint of what lay beneath. I found myself teetering on the edge of drifting into the embrace of sleep I shared. My thoughts, he nodded, a silent acknowledgement. Yet his body remained poised and unmoving. I did not, too. The air crackled with an electric tension, a weighty presence that wrapped around all it touched. As I approached the counter, a sense of excitement filled the atmosphere. He stood up and made his way toward me, each step measured and intentional, at a pace that unfolded with a gentle, unhurried grace. "You look beautiful," he murmured, his voice a soft caress in the air. This morning, a tightness wrapped around my throat. "Lucas, I never meant to look so deeply into your eyes." I discovered that I could not bring myself to stop. I swallowed hard, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. "You really shouldn't say that," I whispered. I know that he took a breath. Then, his hand brushed against my arm, a fleeting caress that spoke volumes. I turned to face him, locking eyes with his gaze. His gaze lingered on my lips before drifting lower. I stood my ground. He leaned in closer. I welcomed his approach, and as his lips finally met mine, an unmistakable tension hung in the air, intriguingly haunting. He kissed me with the weight of a hidden sorrow, as if it were a secret he had just started to mourn. As his hand glided beneath the hem of my slip, exploring the bare skin between my thighs, a gasp slipped from his lips. "I really shouldn't," he whispered softly. "Ah, but you embody that essence already," I noted. His fingers emanated a gentle warmth like the sun's embrace on a cool day. Curious, they rose, brushing the brink, caressing the inner part of my thigh, as if he were ensnared in a fragile ballet of intrigue and withdrawal. My breath hitched in my throat as his knuckle grazed the spot that was already soaked with eager anticipation. He remained motionless, snared in a fleeting instant of astonishment. Lifted my eyes to the heavens. He whispered gently, "You have nothing on underneath this effusion of curiosity and doubt." Indeed, I noted that it was hardly perceptible. Little did I know that someone would notice my presence. He exhaled with a slow, wavering rhythm, as if he were lost beneath the depths of the ocean, and I was the last whisper of existence. Once again, our lips lingered in the realm of unspoken desire, untouched by the warmth of connection. This is not the first time this has happened. He remained close, his hand resting gently against me, as though he struggled to accept my presence, worried that I might vanish if he moved too abruptly. "Please, just tell me to stop," he murmured softly. I did not. I found myself unable to do so. With a delicate touch, I reached for his wrist, guiding his fingers to the exact spot I envisioned. His fingers danced over my skin, gentle and cautious as though he were unearthing a hidden treasure. My head tilted back, my lips parted, a soft whisper of breath slipping away into the air. Oh my goodness. He released a soft, drawn-out sound of discomfort. I kindly ask that you hold back on that remark. Your actions will lead to my undoing. Before I could gather my thoughts, my fingers brushed against his, a moment of unguarded connection that took me by surprise. With thighs trembling and breath caught in my chest, the moment hung heavy in the air. With fingers gripping the edge of the counter, I made a frantic effort to stave off the impending fall to the floor. He stood motionless, his eyes locked onto my face as though it were the most authentic thing he had ever come across. I pulled him into a kiss, charged with a longing that made me quiver, deeply intense, startlingly quick, teetering on the edge of a fire that could engulf us entirely. His body pressed against mine, solid and yearning, and I instinctively reached down, my fingers curling around him through the fabric of his jeans. He released a breath into my mouth. This path is not one we ought to follow. We haven't already embarked on this journey on that fateful night. We decided to stay put, not daring to journey any further. A door slammed shut on the upper floor, echoing through the stillness of the house. Her voice floated through the air, light and unburdened, carrying a clarity that echoed the innocence I had long since lost. We drew back from each other. I made a small tweak to my slip. He stepped back, his fingers grazing the fabric of his jeans, his chest rising and falling with quickened breaths. With a soft voice, he murmured an apology. I am not. I let my words spill out too fast, too openly. He locked his eyes onto mine for a fleeting moment, then turned away and slipped into the quiet shadows. Sleep eluded me, slipping through my fingers like grains of sand. The sheets wrapped around me, their embrace both tight and uneasy. My skin radiates an unusual warmth. In the stillness of the night, I lay awake, captivated by the soft resonance of her laughter, weaving its way through the wall. Every time I closed my eyes, his image emerged. As I approached the peak of ecstasy, I returned to it, breathing in deeply, relishing every caress, until the boundaries between shame and desire faded away. The days that followed unfolded in a haunting stillness, a hush that held me in a restless vigil. He maintained a careful distance, claiming the far side of the room, opting to leave dishes in the sink instead of handing them to me. Yet, I couldn't help but feel his gaze, always lingering, always observing, as if his body held a secret understanding. His mind stubbornly fought against the reality before him. One afternoon, as I meticulously folded laundry in the guest room, he moved gracefully by, his hand brushing softly against my waist. Not challenging, just adequate. I stood firm and resolute. I let the tale reveal itself. In that moment, our silence wove a tapestry of unexpressed thoughts, a heavy tension that hung in the air, an unasked question that danced on the edges of our minds, one we both feared to articulate. It was on that fateful evening when she set off for her bachelorette weekend, a moment filled with anticipation and excitement. For 3 whole days, it would be just the two of us embarking on an adventure together. The house stood tall, its quietude echoing with a surprising depth with a humble creation. Laid out before me, I gently twisted the cork from a bottle of wine, ready to savor the moment. In my heart, I knew she would strike true, never missing her target. He stepped into the kitchen barefoot, wearing a snug gray shirt that embraced his torso. His hair clung to his forehead like a curtain drawn across a stage, and his eyes shimmered with a deeper hue, hinting at untold tales beneath the surface. He sat in quietude, pouring a glass with deliberate care, taking a seat across from me, his gaze fixed on my meal, as if he were longing for something that transcended the simple act of dining. As I lifted my plate to take it to the sink, he followed closely behind, silent and steady, without a hint of hesitation or spoken thought. He drew closer, his warmth enveloping me as his lips brushed softly against my shoulder. his hand finding its place around my waist. "Your voice lingers in my mind," he whispered softly, as your essence touched my fingertips. My knees surrendered to the weight. Of the moment I grasped the counter tightly. "Lucas!" He twirled me in his embrace, his lips meeting mine with a slow, gentle passion, deeper this time, undeniably so. He lifted me onto the counter with ease, parting my knees gently, kissing the inside of my thigh with a tenderness that felt both sacred and forbidden. He leaned in, his voice a soft murmur. "You taste just as I had envisioned." With a mix of sweetness and danger, I inhaled deeply, my fingers weaving through his hair as he led me to bliss once more. His lips consumed me as if he would fade away in that instant. As he ascended, my fingers quivered while I unfastened his belt, liberating him from his restraints. He radiated warmth and presence in my hold. Already beginning to seep, I gently stroked him, relishing the way his hip moved forward, the way his jaw clenched tightly. "What is it that your heart truly longs for?" With a gentle whisper, I spoke. "It is you?" he declared. "I long for each and every one of you." He swept me away in that moment, right there on the counter. A singular, powerful surge that left me gasping for air as I wrapped my legs around him. My arms gracefully fell over his neck, creating a moment of intimacy and connection. Our foreheads met, a tender bond as he joined with me, deliberate and deep, creating a path of chaos behind. In the hush of the moment, our gestures conveyed a tale far richer than words ever could. The delicate chime of the wine glass resonated softly in the background, intertwining with the gentle hum of the fridge as his soft moans slipped through with every tightening embrace. I bestowed upon him, I found myself back again, engulfed in a sense of helplessness, while he followed closely, letting out a raw, fragmented wail against my neck. As we lingered in each other's embrace, time seemed to stretch infinitely, his head resting softly on my shoulder, his breath a gentle symphony of irregularity. In a twist of fate, he observed, "We find ourselves in quite the predicament." "I understand, and I have no intention of stopping. I, too, am aware of that." The next morning, I decided to face him head-on, even if it might have been wiser to avoid the encounter. In the quiet of the morning, I prepared 2 cups of coffee, setting his gently on the counter, the air thick with unspoken words. He stepped out a few minutes later, his feet bare against the cool ground, his eyes still weighed down by the lingering shadows of slumber. He cast a fleeting look at the cup before shifting his eyes to mine, devoid of a smile, merely giving a slight nod, as though we were quiet partners, weighed down by a mutual secret, ensnared in a wordless agreement. As I savored the drink, I found myself leaning effortlessly against the counter, the moment unfolding. Like a well-crafted tale, he took a slow sip of his drink, his eyes darting toward my collarbone with a hint of intrigue. The echoes of the previous night hung in the air, thick and heavy, saturating the silence that surrounded us. Every time his hand brushed against mine by the sink, an undeniable force drew me nearer, beyond what was needed, as I posed questions that needed no replies, offering help for tasks he could effortlessly handle on his own. He permitted it, his eyes following me as I made my way out of the room. He hovered just a breath away as our paths intertwined in the hallway. In a fleeting instant, a spoon slipped from my fingers, and as we both bent to reclaim it, our faces drew close, suspended, in a breathless pause where neither of us dared to break the spell. The scent of his skin hung in the atmosphere, a gentle, pure fragrance that had woven itself into my pillow. On the eve before, the details escaped me, yet our lips found each other again, quick and passionate, like young lovers secreted away behind a shut door. That evening, we cast aside all facades in the dimly lit hallway. The tale took its first breath, a momentary glance, a soft touch that lingers, and then hands pulling at cloth before ideas could fully form. He gently pushed me against the wall, his lips and eager hands wandering in a dance of discovery. In the quiet of the night, he leaned closer and murmured, "You are the sole thought that fills my mind." From the first light of dawn to the fading glow of dusk, even within her warm embrace, my heart yearns for you. Though I knew I should have stepped in, should have encouraged him to leave, I instead found my fingers working to unzip his jeans, my hand wrapping around him, warm and already yearning, as he released a groan into my mouth as if it had been held back for far too long. He gently lifted my leg around his waist, his fingers tracing a path between my thighs, feeling the heat of my longing. "Jesus," he whispered softly, "your spirit flows like a gentle stream before me." A gentle sigh escaped my lips, my form bending gracefully in reaction. From the instant our gazes intertwined in that mirror, a deep yearning for you has taken root within me that broke him into pieces. With a decisive motion, he lifted me off my feet, guiding us through the hallway with intent and pushed the guest room door open just enough with the force of his shoulder. As we fell onto the bed, we became one, our mouths, skin, and limbs intertwining in an unquenchable thirst to consume each other. He plunged into my depths with remarkable speed. This time the atmosphere was serious, devoid of playful jabs or curious questions. With open arms, I welcomed every inch, every thrust that made the headboard clash against the wall. He let out a deep groan, completely engulfed by the overwhelming intensity of the sensation. Your spirit radiates with an undeniable brightness. My heart trembles at the thought. Of my time running short in that case, perhaps it's best to refrain. My breath caught in my throat. "Just pass it to me if you would." He took hold of my hands, lifting them above my head, our bodies meeting with a fervent urgency, sweat mingling between us, breath becoming a primal dance of desire. We came together as though we were striving to immerse ourselves in each other's essence. In the quiet that followed, we were wrapped in stillness, our eyes drawn to the ceiling above us. His hand enveloped mine. "Only 2 more nights remain," he said, a hint of anticipation in his voice. I decided to hold my tongue. I knew deep down that I would cherish each and every moment spent with them. The next day, I pulled aside the curtains to unveil a raging storm beyond the window. As the rain gently tapped on the windows, the wind orchestrated a delicate ballet among the trees, swaying them with elegance. A photograph came from my daughter, beautifully encapsulating the spirit of the coast with its radiant sun, golden sands, and joyful smiles that lit up the scene. Her smile held me in a spell, enchanting me in a way that felt almost too intense. She mirrored the essence of who I once was before the burdens of regret took hold. As the evening shadows deepened, I stepped into the gentle caress of the rain. The air beckoned to me, its coolness a gentle caress that danced upon my skin. With bare feet, I made my way down the porch stairs and into the yard, letting the water soak my shirt and embrace my skin. I lingered in that moment, a silhouette wrapped in the thick veil of regret. In that fleeting instant, I felt his shadowy figure hovering just behind me. The door clicked shut, and his footsteps faded softly into the damp grass below. "Him? What compels you to keep welcoming me into your world?" he asked with curiosity, for I am tired of pretending that I am not hungry. His hand reached out, fingertips lightly grazing the soaked fabric at my waist, pulling me nearer to him. Our bodies shimmered smoother and barely clothed. His lips found mine, a slow, deep exploration that drew us further into the essence of the moment. As the rain poured down, he gently peeled the shirt away from my skin, kneeling before me, his lips exploring the delicate curves of my stomach, my hip, my thigh. He expressed his desire to make sure he approached this the right way, and so it was that he truly did. He softly laid me on the cool, dewy grass, and we held each other close, as if time itself had paused to witness our moment. It was meant to find its resolution under the relentless rain that night. Yet it persisted, weaving its tale further into the fabric of time. In the wake of it all, we stood at a crossroads, caught between the thrill of recklessness and the invigorating spark of newfound courage that urged us onward. We believed that desire made us unstoppable, that it held the strength to build a sanctuary strong enough to endure the looming downfall. We laid down our watch as the night enveloped us, wrapped in silence and the weight of closed doors. As I entered the pantry, I invited him to join me. A flicker of electricity danced between us when his hand brushed against my lower back. As I reached for the sugar, I kissed him with a longing that seemed to pull him into the depths of my soul. He lifted me onto a shelf, gently raised my skirt, and before I could even take a breath, his fingers were exploring me. With a hushed tone, he murmured, "You're always there for me." I pressed my teeth into his shoulder, feeling the tremor in his voice. "In your presence, the world fades away, and I yearn for that brief escape, even if just for a heartbeat." We moved forward in a tight circle, hearts racing and senses heightened. The world around me faded, as his lips met mine, enveloping me in a moment that felt both electric and timeless. Our journey fell just short of the final destination. A sudden knock on the kitchen door startled us, sending us scurrying away like frightened teens. Yet the ache lingered long after he had zipped up and slipped out, as if nothing had ever happened. A sense of resentment began to swell within me, fueled by the distance that stretched between our touches. I yearned for the melody of his voice, a sound I craved even when I was not wrapped in his embrace. Our paths would cross in the most surprising of places. The backseat of his car lingering at the edge of the woods, the stairwell dimming just after twilight. In the lonely upstairs guest bathroom, I knelt down, drawing him into my mouth with a measured slowness that almost sent him into a frenzy. "You're not real," he breathed, his eyes locked onto the rhythm of my movements. "You are a sight that will undoubtedly reveal my innermost self." Upon his arrival, I absorbed every moment, my eyes firmly meeting his. I longed for him to engrave it into his memory for eternity. Yet dreams dance, away like whispers in the wind, as dawn broke on her second morning back. The world around her transformed in ways she could never have anticipated. With a gentle hum, she twirled elegantly in the kitchen, her cheeks radiating a warm, lively glow. He settled next to her at the island, nodding, his smile spreading. Like the dawn across the horizon, from my vantage point at the sink, with soap suds clinging to my hands, I felt my heart clawing at my chest. I witnessed it unfold before my eyes. As her fingers grazed his, he pulled back ever so slightly, a delicate dance of hesitation between them, and I found myself fully aware she felt it, too. The betrayal has yet to unfold, the moment still lingering in the shadows. Yet the transition, that fleeting piece of the puzzle, the deceit, lingered in the air, much like a hidden rot concealed beneath the floorboards. That evening, I made my way up to his quarters. In the corridor, I waited patiently, the moment stretching until she entered the shower, the melody of music weaving through the atmosphere, with a melody that grated on my nerves. I grasped his wrist, pulling him into the dim embrace of the guest room, pressing him firmly against the door. Once again, I whispered gently. He chose not to delve into the cause behind it. He kissed me with a fervor that spoke of longing, as though time itself had conspired to keep us apart for ages. "I can't stop," he murmured, his lips grazing mine like a whisper of fate. "Then don't," I had already murmured. With my back turned to the door, I held onto his belt and embraced. The moment his lips gently grazed my shoulder, my fingers wove through his hair, a gentle dance of connection. The faintest whisper of the floorboards beneath us intensified the looming sense of danger that hung in the atmosphere. utterly enchanting. He sighed, a heavy heart weighing down his words. You're going to destroy me. You've already shared that information. With a sharp intake of air, I found myself struggling for breath, and so that journey has already been fulfilled. We pressed forward, a sense of urgency driving us as though we were escaping the unavoidable consequences that loomed ahead. A feeling washed over us, a whisper of certainty that we were narrowing the distance. Upon my arrival, I bit into his shoulder, silencing my cries in the process. He arrived moments later, diving in completely and trembling with fervor. In the hush that enveloped us, words hung in the air, unspoken and heavy with meaning. We hovered in the dimness, breathless and broken. The silence wrapped around us, thick with the weight of what was to come. Yet our silence was not as profound as we had envisioned. As dawn broke, she emerged a new vision of change and possibility, cooler, quieter in nature. In the quiet of the morning, she set about making the coffee, each movement deliberate and thoughtful. She held back from reaching out to him, and when she looked at me, her eyes held no trace of doubt. It was as if I had transformed into a distant whisper, gradually slipping from the chambers of her heart. Though she stayed oblivious to the cause, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I sat in solitude within my chamber, the door firmly closed against the world outside. As I stood before the mirror, I beheld my reflection, unadorned and vulnerable, beneath the soft embrace of a robe I failed to secure it. I traced the marks on my thighs, echoes of his hold that lingered a bit too strongly. I let my fingers glide over the place where his lips had once rested, then softly slipped into the hallway. I fought to keep my tears at bay. At this time, it was not possible. Yet I felt a gathering storm, a brewing tempest on the horizon of all we had woven together. He rapped gently, a hesitant sound reverberating. In the quietude, I decided to remain silent in that quiet moment. An unspoken goodbye hung softly in the atmosphere. He did not come back that night. No soft knock to break the silence. In the stillness, there were no hidden truths. In the dim light, no hands traced the curve of my waist. I found myself, caught in a web of anticipation, unable to stay in one place. I paced back and forth, shifting from sitting to standing. Each time I opened the door, I felt the urge to close it again almost immediately. The silence hung heavy in the air, not merely because his hands were no longer there, but because of the haunting implications that his absence carried with it. Perhaps she had been chosen by him. Perhaps it was guilt that had woven its way to victory in the end. It seemed he held a power that eclipsed my own. A deep desire stirred within me, longing to embrace the fiery essence of anger. Yet all I felt was a deep void, as if he had taken pieces of me I never knew I had given away. The next day, he avoided me. Entirely, he nestled beside her again, inviting her to lean into him for comfort. With a playful twist of his lips, he smiled as she unveiled a surprise on her phone. I stood in the kitchen, watching them with the eyes of a curious observer, feeling like a stranger in my own home. She offered a warm invitation to share a cup of coffee. Her voice flowed like a gentle melody, while her eyes told a different tale altogether. With keen eyes, they scrutinized me, measuring my form as if she held a hidden truth, or perhaps something darker lurking beneath the surface. Deep within her, a stirring began to awaken, a quiet anticipation for the validation she yearned for. As I navigated my way through a haze of thankfulness, I stepped out of the room, my heart racing, a rhythmic alarm resonating within me. On that fateful afternoon, he stumbled upon me, nestled among the vibrant blooms of the garden. As I pretended to prune the lavender, my hands shook with an unsteady rhythm, betraying the calm I tried to portray. He knelt beside me, his voice a soft murmur, like a secret shared in the stillness of the night. It is time to put an end to this chapter. I turned my eyes away from him. You have already woven that tale into reality. His hand grazed mine gently, echoing a sense of regret. It has surpassed my deepest longings. A gentle, bitter chuckle slipped from my lips, laced with an air of fragility. It was destined to unfold differently. The tale unfolded around what we had claimed as our own, what truly mattered, not merely what was fair. He cast his eyes upon the expanse of earth that separated us. Last night, she asked me about the state of my joy. I paused for a brief moment. What were you suggesting? That I was not honest? Once again, he emerged from the shadows, cloaked in the mystery of the night. He chose to hold his tongue. As I stepped into my room, a familiar sense of belonging washed over me. As the last echoes of life faded from the house, I settled into the comforting embrace of my bed. Her rose-blue eyes sparkled with wonder, wide open to the world around her. He nestled beside me, and without thinking, I leaned into him. Our lips remained untouched by fate. Not just yet, he enveloped me in his embrace, his face gently resting against my neck. My fingers trembled. Softly as they glided over my ribs, she sensed the soft murmur of his voice. I nodded in understanding. She chose to keep her thoughts to herself, wrapped in a veil of quietude. At this time, it is not possible, yet it breathes in the silences that linger between each word. Our connection lacked that special closeness. This tale has unfolded before. We held on to each other tightly, a silent urgency surrounding us as though we were bracing for the storm that was about to break. At last, his lips found mine, a slow, sorrowful, and treacherous union. His hands danced across my body, carving the farewell into the essence of his soul. I cleared a path for him, letting him step inside as he joined with me. It was a gentle embrace, neither harsh nor wild. It was a heart-wrenching experience. He advanced with a measured grace, as though he grasped that this would be the last instant I would permit anyone to delve into my innermost being. I wrapped my legs around him, my fingertips gliding gently along his back. As our foreheads met, he whispered soft words that constricted my throat. You drew me into clarity. You led me to forget everything I once knew. A chill of dread enveloped me. You were never just a mistake. I stepped into the stillness, my eyes unwavering, fixed firmly on his. And when he arrived, he spoke my name as though it were a hidden truth, finally revealed. He stayed until the first light of dawn began to emerge, slipping away like a soft whisper in the night the next day. She locked eyes with me in a way that was both captivating and mesmerizing, her smile brightening the entire scene. Yet, it felt devoid of true essence. In that fleeting instant, clarity washed over me, revealing that the most profound heartbreak emerges when one holds the truth close, yet finds themselves frozen, grappling with the uncertainty of how to move forward. She extended an invitation for me to share a meal with her, just the two of us, without Lucas, cast aside all devices. She conveyed a deep sense of longing for my presence, reminiscing about the cherished moments spent with her mother. There we were, nestled in a charming little cafe, a beloved haunt from her high school years. In those early moments, everything seemed almost commonplace. She wove tales of the wedding favors, the vibrant hues, and the blossoms that twirled gracefully in her imagination. I nodded in understanding, a smile gracing my lips at the perfect intervals. Yet I felt her gaze upon me, charged with an intensity that seemed almost tangible, as if she were weaving a magnificent tapestry of intentions. And then, in the heart of her tale, she came to a halt with a delicate touch. She set her fork down upon the table. With gentle grace, she rested her hands on the table, fingers woven together like a delicate tapestry. As she began to speak once more, her voice held a firm steadiness, though it was devoid of any softness. Is he sharing your bed with you? I remained motionless, my body frozen in that instant. The cafe enveloped us in a dance of change, with a delicate melody of plates. Softly chiming in harmony, the sound of laughter danced through the atmosphere. And so I pressed on, undeterred by the challenges ahead. In that moment, it was as if every essence of my being was captured within the profound depths of her gaze. "What?" I gently whispered. Still, she held back from inquiring again. She knew. I could sense it in the tightness of her jawline, in the way she held her gaze, unwavering and steady. "Please just share it with me," she implored. "I kindly request your response without any additional prompts." I opened my mouth, then caused it to tighten. My fingers danced gently at the edge of my glass. Perhaps I could have opted for a path of deception. One could have woven a tale of manipulation. She could have claimed that her fears were nothing more than the creations of a vivid imagination. Yet I decided against it. For the truth had been building inside her, a quiet cry yearning to break free. And I could no longer hold it back. "I didn't mean to," I whispered gently. Her gaze held me captive, extending into a timeless moment. And within her, there existed a profound essence. A soft crack resonated in the stillness of the air. "How long does it last? Since that weekend you left, everything has felt different." Whenever I spoke of him, her hands would clench into tight fists with every declaration of my affection for him. "You stood ready, every detail accounted for." She paused, shifting my gaze elsewhere. "It was never my plan for the events to take such a turn." I mused. "Yet you let it all play out," she insisted, her voice growing more fervent with each word. "Within the embrace of my home together with my beloved fiancé, I recall what I mentioned before I am keenly conscious of what I do." With a graceful motion, she stood tall. Curiosity danced in her eyes. Still, she held an air of indifference. In one fluid movement, she grasped her bag and keys, letting a solitary phrase escape her lips. "It will be a tale I carry with me always. You have ceased to be my mother." As she crossed the threshold into the world beyond, the air wrapped around her like a familiar embrace. There was no turning back. I remained at the table, savoring the moment long after the check had been placed before me. I found myself back in a house that seemed to hold only fragments of vitality. Lucas had vanished into thin air. She had vanished into thin air. Alas, the wedding has been called off. Her father stood in quietude, his lips sealed, revealing no inquiries. He set off on his journey just 2 weeks later. He professed that the art of loving me had slipped from his memory. Once upon a time, I shared that I had wandered the world as an outsider for many years. Yet he wandered through life unaware until that fleeting moment vanished into the ether. In the quiet embrace of the guest room, I have found my haven for restful slumber. The fragrance hangs in the air, evoking memories of his existence. There are nights when I awaken, my hand resting between my thighs, searching for a presence that slips through my fingers. As I sit on the porch, my thoughts wander to the possibility that he might ponder my presence in his life. Should he remember the taste of my spirit? The tunes I wove through the falling rain. The way I whispered his name like a treasured secret, meant only for my ears. Only we held the true worth. Yet I hold a profound insight. He may be weaving a new narrative elsewhere alongside a companion who offers a sense of stability and my beloved daughter. She sends out postcards, each one short and to the point, honorable, never ending with warmth. At times I find myself reflecting on whether my desire for her eclipses my craving for the soothing embrace of a tender caress. There are moments when I reflect on whether this tranquility is truly what I have rightfully attained. He held the title of my daughter's fiancé, while I was the woman who chose to embrace deprivation over dignity. The wound still lingers. Untouched by time, it simply changes its shape. Before you embark on your next adventure, remember to give a thumbs up to the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate those notifications so you won't miss the tale that awaits you next. Thank you for joining me on this journey.